you say? Yes, it's that time again. It's Tech Tuesday. Hey, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. This is Chad from Ascension Worship. A while back, we did a video about connecting two X32s together, one for front of house and one for monitors. Since that time, I've gotten some really good questions about some things I said in that video, particularly when it comes to sending like your Talkback signal from front of house to the monitor console. So this week, I want to expound on that video and show how to do that, how to send a few different feeds, some different options that you would probably want to do. I will pin a comment with a link to the original video. You may want to watch that if this is all new to you. But otherwise, I will do a really quick recap and kind of explain what's going on in this diagram here. So for this example, I'm going to show what we did at a local church recently. They had an X32 at front of house. So we were going from the AES-A port in the back to a pair of S16 digital snakes. So from A to A, out of B to A of the second snake, and then finally from B is going to connect to the A port of an X32 rack, which we're seeing the rear of right here. So the important thing to remember in this is that we're on both consoles, the full X32 and the X32 rack. We are connected through the A ports. So let's take a look at the routing, and I'll show you how everything is connected here. So we have two different X32 edit programs open here. So I can kind of show you back and forth. Well, we got one for front of house, which is our main mixer. And then we've got another one that's for monitors, which is our X32 rack. So starting with front of house, if we look at our routing tab here and our home tab, which is our inputs, you can see that we are receiving from the AES-A port, so coming from the digital snake, 1 through 32. We are also doing an aux-in remap, which means that rather than using all 6 of our auxiliary inputs, the first 2 will be dead because instead we'll be receiving local 1 and 2, which is our XLR inputs, in case we need to add more channels at the back of the board. This is pretty useful, but we will need the trick that we're showing today to be able to get these signals to the monitor console. So this is part of why this video is going on. So now that's what we're getting into the board. Now coming out, and again, we're using the A port. So we're going to click on the A tab up here. This is what we are sending out of that cable that is going to go to the digital snake and then through to the X32 rack for monitors. So the way the snakes work, outputs 1 through 16 have to be our outs that are going to our speakers, main left, main right, subs, etc. So we've got outputs 1 through 8, 9 through 16. And then starting on output 17, we've got a duplicate copy of our original inputs that are going through so they can pass through onto the X32 rack. So again, starting on output 17, you can see we've got AES-A 1 through 32. So it's a little bit weird because what was channel 1 will now be channel 17. But once we get to our monitor console, again, clicking on the routing tab, home tab, now you can see our input 1 through 8 is receiving channel 17. So it's all going to work out in the end. Everything that started on channel 1 will be channel 1 on both consoles. It's just kind of a detour because of the way the digital snakes work. So from 1 through 32, we're receiving the A inputs 17 through 48. And then here is where the magic happens. Our auxiliary remap is, again, we have no use for our local inputs or our auxiliary inputs on this monitor console. So we're going to change it to receive AES-50A 1 through 6. So as I mentioned a moment ago, 1 through 16 are our outputs that are going to the digital snakes so that we can get sound to our speakers. So we're not going to really need 16 outputs for that because now that we're sharing the load with 2 different consoles, it's just not going to really be necessary in most cases. So now what this means is that our outs 1 through 6 from the front of house console will be coming to the monitor console into our auxiliary inputs. Now I've got them soft patched over. So this is actually auxiliary 1, but you can see I've got my Talkback, EBVs, Miscellaneous, and then this is my front of house click. So looking back at our front of house console, if we go again on our routing page to our outs 1 through 16, and generally this is default on the console, but you just need to make sure. Output 1 is sending the mix from mix bus 1, 2, mix bus 2, 3, mix bus 3, 4, mix bus 4. I'm only doing 4, but I could do up to 6 if I needed to. And so now if you look at my mixes, they're down here. I've got a Talkback mix, a BVs mix, Miscellaneous mix, and a front of house click mix. So again, the same thing that I have over on the other console. So let's talk about what's in each of these. This one's the most important, our Talkback mix. This is, right now, it's an empty mix. There's nothing going to it from our 32 channels. However, if you go up to the monitor section and click on Talkback, you can see that my Talkback A button is routed to mix bus 1. So if I hit my Talkback button and speak into this mix, you get audio coming up and down in the Talkback mix, which is therefore sending over to our monitor console on a channel that the band can then turn up and down in their ears. One thing that's important is that when you first do this, to give them a leg up, you want to go ahead and make sure that there's a little bit of this in everybody's mix to start with, so that you can communicate with them properly. Now back to my front of house console. This next mix is called my BVs mix. This is pretty smart. If we look at our vocals here, this is sending my backing vocals in a post-fade mix. So this particular church has 6 vocal mics that they regularly use. Usually they indicate a worship leader, a co-worship leader, and then they have 4 people that are singing backup, but sometimes lead songs. So by using this mix, rather than a band member, say a bass player, having to have all 6 of these vocals in their ears at all times, which can become a little bit disorienting, they can always hear a predetermined level of worship 1 and worship leader 2, but they're going to hear a post-fade mix, if they desire, of these other 4 vocals. So say, for example, on one of the songs, vocalist 3 is leading that song. When front of house pushes that vocal up in the mix, that would naturally become louder because it's a post-fade mix in the monitor console. So that bass player doesn't have to go and try and find that vocal and turn it up. It will automatically become louder in their ears. And then once that song's over and they get faded down, it'll come quieter in their ears. And let's say that next song, vocalist 4 is singing, now he or she will become louder in their ears. So it's kind of an auto mix scenario, since in this case, there's not a engineer dedicated to monitors. This helps to kind of give you that personal attention like a separate monitor engineer would have. Works really well. Every church I've installed it at has been very happy with it. So it's a pretty cool trick that seems to work really well for people. This miscellaneous mix over here is essentially the same thing. We have our speaking mics, so our MC mics and our headset mic, again, are being sent post-fade to the band. Practical example is, let's say the pastor is turning his or her microphone on during the last song before he hops up to talk to the crowd. If you had a pre-fade level of the headset going to the band, as soon as the pastor turns on the microphone, you're going to get all this extra noise coming into the band's ears. But again, because this is a post-fade mix, if that mic is down or muted, then it's down in the band's ears. But once the pastor gets on stage and front of house turns up that microphone, then it will fade into the band's ears more naturally and sound a lot better. So really, really useful. Also in that miscellaneous mix, I have our auxiliary sends. and our PC sends. So like if the band needs to hear a video that they're kind of playing on either side of, they can hear that coming through that mix. Also, we have those local inputs that we added to the front of house console so that we now have a mix to send those down as well in case the band needs to hear whatever it is that you have plugged in locally. Finally, we have a front of house click mix. Currently, there's nothing in here, but again, if you are sending videos and maybe there's a click attached to the video, you need a way to be able to send click to the band so they can keep on time with the video. So this is a mix that you can send that down so they can do so. Again, you can do up to 6 different mixes this way. Typically 4 is enough for most of the churches that I work with, but it gives you a ton of options to play around with. Hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below, or you can email me directly at TechTuesday@ascensionworship.com. If you are looking to do this at your church and you need some hands-on help, that is something that we offer. You can contact me again at TechTuesday@ascensionworship.com, and we'd love to schedule time to come out and do some on-site training or help you get set up, especially if you're using an X32 or X32 rack. Until next time, have a great day. Again, this is Chad from Ascension Worship. I hope this has been helpful for you and your team. Come back here every Tuesday for new information.